Once again, I have stumbled upon an absolutely garbage tier article regarding Halo Infinite. This time it's from Den of Geek. Now, let's just look at this title first. And I mean, this is the biggest problem I have with this article is the title. But I will read some of what they had to say, but the title makes no sense whatsoever. It says, How Halo Infinite Became the Franchise's Own Star Wars The Force Awakens. And then the subheader, The Halo Infinite campaign doesn't so much address Halo 5 Guardians as it does Combat Evolved. Okay, well, you know what? Let's talk about this subheader first. Uh, that's I don't get this because it does address Halo 5. Yeah, it kind of pushes some stuff under the rug because Cortana's kind of dead already at the beginning of this game. But like I said in a previous video, they were written into a corner and they had to do whatever they could to get out of that corner because Brian Reed screwed them up so badly when he wrote Halo 5. So they did what they could, but it's definitely addressed. Like the status of all the characters are almost all addressed. But I think I get what they're trying to say. It says that it addresses Combat Evolved. Well, no, it addresses all 8 games, really. I mean, there's not mentioned much reference to ODST, but they touch on all the games. What I think they mean to say is, in spirit, it wants to be like Combat Evolved. But, okay, my biggest issue is with this title trying to say that it's its own Force Awakens, which is not correct at all. Because the difference is Force Awakens was trying to be Star Wars, like the original Star Wars again, and I don't think it succeeded. I don't think this game was necessarily trying to be Halo 1 again. Yeah, it was doing a lot of callbacks and the structure was more similar to it, but I don't think they were trying to do the same thing again. I mean, if they were, they wouldn't have made it open world and they wouldn't have had a grapple hook, two very different things that weren't in that game. But I will elaborate on that further after we read some of this. So it reads, even though it's technically a sequel to 2015's Halo 5 Guardians, Halo Infinite's mission is not so much to continue the story of the Reclaimer saga, yes it is, and all the Cortana and Forerunner baggage that comes with it. Yeah, it sort of is. Yes, there's still a bit of that throughout Halo Infinite's 10 to 15 hour story campaign. I'd argue there's more than a bit, but okay. But the game's main concern, as Master Chief crash lands on yet another mysterious Halo ring, is to recapture the magic of 2001. Sorta? Maybe? I could agree with that a little bit, maybe not completely. From the opening space mission, it's clear that Halo Infinite wants its 30-plus-year-old fandom, hey, not all of us are that old, fandom who bought the original Xbox 2 decades ago, okay, yeah, I didn't, to feel nostalgic for the days of the silent cartographer, funny Cortana quips, and LAN parties. Well, you don't really get funny Cortana quips in this, you get stuff from the weapon, but whatever. LAN parties is something it kind of sucks that I missed that era. I was too young at the time to experience LAN parties, and that sounds like fun. I mean, I did go to friends' house to play games, which was kind of LAN parties, but I missed that whole era of like having 20 people at your house. Overall, the game succeeds as a legacy sequel full of Easter eggs and callbacks, even if at times it seems like the story wants to deconstruct the legend of the Master Chief. Does it? Show how it's imperfect and reveal the scars left behind after the fall of Cortana. I almost said the call of Fortana. Okay, I take issue with that. Does it really try to deconstruct Chief? Because from what I played of it, I mean, I played all of it, but not once did I feel like it was doing that. Chief felt like good old-fashioned Chief from Halo 3. So I don't know if you're reading into this game what you want to. If you want, like, if that's what you want to see in it, that a deconstruction of him. That's the last thing we want, is them to deconstruct another beloved hero, considering all the ones that's happened to. I mean, the fact that this guy thinks it's like Force Awakens, I guess that makes sense why he would say it's a deconstruction, because there's a lot of deconstruction in Force Awakens, especially with Han. So that makes more sense of why he thinks they're similar, but they're not. Honestly, I can't think of a single part in this game that deconstructed him at all. He felt pretty true to himself. Honestly, I think 4 and 5 deconstructed him more than this game, so I don't know what drugs this guy is on. Oh no, I see the next sentence and it's making me really mad. There are moments when the writers seem to want to do for John what Star Wars The Last Jedi did for Luke Skywalker? What? Even putting him in the role of teacher for the game's new AI character, an interesting inverse to his relationship with Cortana. Huh? Where? Okay, first of all, the thing that made us so mad about Luke Skywalker was you took what his character was from Return of the Jedi, which is a optimistic, idealistic hero. I mean, like, he's a bona fide hero. He would never turn his back on the galaxy. He wouldn't give up, and he wouldn't kill his own father. He threw his lightsaber. He refused to do it because he knew there was still good in him. And then you took that and you completely butchered his character. You didn't deconstruct him. You butchered him in The Last Jedi, because he went from no way would he kill his father to, oh, my son or my nephew had a bad dream. Better kill him before he becomes the next Vader. You made him like a trigger-happy psychopath. You know, one day I am going to make videos that break down those movies, because every year that passes, the less I like them. Because I feel like at the time of The Force Awakens, we were all excited to see what happens next. We felt like there was going to be some kind of payoff, but really there wasn't. It was kind of just a giant bait. And then the whole thing kind of fell apart. That's another video for another day. But I mean, you kind of get my thoughts here about what I think of Last Jedi. Nowhere did I think Chief was like that whatsoever. They didn't make him not heroic anymore. He didn't like turn his back on the galaxy. He didn't like go and hide in a cave for 5 years and say, I don't want to help anymore. And then when someone tries to get him to help, he says no. He didn't drink blue milk from some creature's teat. I'm sorry, green milk. So there is, I don't know. I honestly don't know what this guy is seeing in this game, because there was nothing in this that felt like Luke in Episode 8. I think it's a huge stretch that, like, the one thing that he tries to say is that he's in the role of a teacher for the new AI character, but I mean, there's dozens and dozens of characters that you can say are like teachers. Why you'd go to Luke first is baffling. This guy probably thinks Last Jedi is good, which is why this article is bad. Let's continue. But the story feels... Oh, wait, an interesting interversion. Yeah, I said that. But the story feels at its weakest when trying to communicate how those complex character beats relate to the ongoing Forerunner mumbo-jumbo that makes up the overall plot. It's not really mumbo-jumbo if you pay attention, dude. The story is full of the vague proper nouns that pervade other shooters of its ilk, like Destiny, the Conservatory, the Auditorium, the Harbinger. Oh my gosh. Okay, dude, did you not play Halo 1? This is... You're saying it echoes Halo 1, but then you're saying these weird, obtuse titles of things that are just nouns are just strange, even though they had exactly that in Halo 1. The Silent Cartographer, the Library. So now you think the Conservatory and the Auditorium and the Harbinger are weird, even though I think it fits just right into the lore? Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Not that the original trilogy didn't do this, too. Yeah, it did. But fans cared about the Flood, the Index, the Arbiter, and the Ark. Yeah, that's true. We did care. Again, I mean, with this new enemy, the Endless, I probably should mention... I should have said this is spoilers for Halo Infinite, but... yeah, we don't necessarily care yet about the Endless, but I think we're gonna learn to care and be interested, because we've barely learned about them. And to be fair, we didn't really... It's not that we didn't care or did care about the Flood. We were just scared of them in Halo 1. We were running from them. They were something to shoot. And I think by the end of 3, yeah, we were like, yeah, this was a cool story with the Flood. But trying to say that, like, right now, us not caring about the Harbinger or the Endless is bad is kind of weird, because it's going to take a little bit for us to get to know more about them. We aren't necessarily going to feel that way right away. Halo Infinite's attempt to go back to the franchise's roots by packing an open world full of familiar sights and sounds from Combat Evolved is a clear sign Reclaimer lore hasn't quite captured the imagination the same way. I don't know. I think the Reclaimer stuff is pretty cool, and I don't think it's not popular. And it's kind of vague to just call it Reclaimer lore. Like, I don't know what he means by that. In fact, one of the biggest criticisms developer 343 Industries has faced since 2012's Halo 4 is that their games deviated too far from the story and tone fans knew and loved. At the very least, Evil Cortana did not sit well. Agreed with the Evil Cortana stuff, but I do think that could have been done well if you had good writing, but you didn't. The idea of Evil Cortana is not necessarily bad to me. I think it's actually pretty interesting to make Chief's sidekick the villain. I think it's actually a really cool idea, but it was just done so poorly. It's all about execution. So Evil Cortana could sit well, just not the way they did it. And the part about their games deviated too far, the tone I understand, like with the art style change and stuff. Well, that art style's not tone either, so I don't know about tone. Art style I would put there, but not tone. But story, I don't understand that. The story was basically over. Like, Halo 1 through 3, you are done with your original trilogy story. Chief goes back on the ice. 4 is the beginning of a new story. So how could you say that 4 is moving away from the story when there was no more story to tell? That's what 4 was. They were starting a new story. Again, I feel like this guy needed to do some editing on here, or maybe he just doesn't know what he's talking about. But in Halo Infinite, you're back on a Halo ring, shooting your way through grunts, elites, jackals, and brutes with your new fast-quipping AI pal, the Weapon, who also happens to be voiced by legendary Lola Jen Taylor. Together, you team up with the cannon fodder Space Marines, riding into enemy warthogs and tanks, and taking down the aliens with BRs, Needlers. Yeah, a lot of that stuff you do in all the games. To use another Star Wars comparison, it all feels like... no. It all feels like Han and Chewie taking command of the Millennium Falcon for the first time in 30 years. This is Halo's The Force Awakens. No, it's not! You didn't deconstruct and ruin Chief and Cortana. I mean, Cortana, they kind of did that in 5, but in this game, Chief was not deconstructed or ruined. He's still Chief. And you did do that in Star Wars. I like how he just says that, but doesn't like... And then he just moves on. More about Halo. He just says, this is Halo's The Force Awakens, without explaining further. Like, elaborate. Why is it like The Force Awakens? This guy just sounds like a fan of the sequels and he's trying to cram it into this. I don't know. Halo Infinite dishes the familiar setting. Oh, I thought maybe he was trying to say ditches. No, I think dishes. The familiar setting and setup, but in a shiny new package for next-gen consoles. Not that Halo Infinite's graphics are particularly cutting edge. I actually found them to be a bit underwhelming for a Series X flagship. I can agree with that. They weren't like mind-blowing, but they are very good. Because they had to run on 8-year-old hardware. But by no means is it bad. Like, Chief looks amazing in cutscenes. And a lot of the game looks fantastic. Graphics are not everything. The gameplay is rock solid, and that's the most important part. The game opens on a UNSC ship in space, with Master Chief navigating the chaos of a space battle gone terribly wrong, and he's quickly given a reason to land on Zeta Halo, a mysterious ring that the Banished have captured after annihilating humanity's forces there. The Banished themselves call back to I almost said the OT, but that's a Star Wars thing. The original trilogy's Covenant in very specific ways. Well, not directly. Is this even relevant to the video I'm talking about? Hold on. Brute Uprising, if you know, you know. The Banished are another faction. Wait, what does that mean? Associated with Halo 2's Tartarus and the Brute Uprising on High Charity, if you know, you know. I mean, you're talking about Halo. Obviously, we're going to know if you've played the games. The Banished are another faction who broke away. We know that. Like the Covenant, the Banished want to reactivate the ring. Nods to the Flood without actually including them, which I wish they did. And it's up to Chief, the Weapon, and a very nervous Pelican pilot referred to as 216 for most of the game. Infinite lacks the more... Okay, I agree with this too. They lack some more diverse terrains of past Halo games. There's no snow area. Agreed with that criticism. I could have done with that. Okay, this part is not really relevant to what I was talking about. I'm just rebutting some of this stuff. But this one says, but then the story missions come in and you're thankful for the more wide-open level design that allows you to tackle objectives. I did like that stuff. There are even multiple paths you can take to complete a mission or clear an area. Again, a nice return to the old Combat Evolved way of doing things, much more over the thing linear like 3, 4, and 5. Let me talk about the grapple shot. They said that verticality adds to it. I agree. It's really good. This part, I don't agree with. It also speeds the gameplay up significantly, a cure to the franchise's historically plotting traversal woes of the past. I would not call the traversal in Halo plotting. Yes, there's no sprint, but the traversal is pretty darn good in all the Halo games, so I'm not sure what he's talking about there. Okay, then here's where he gets back to the Force Awakens stuff again. So he says, Chief is deadly serious. Yeah, as he should be. You know he's not smiling. It's up to Taylor once again to introduce the humor. Whether it's a weapon low-key roasting Chief or pointing out how ridiculous the predicament is at times. That stuff I thought was a little weird. Like her pointing out, like, this is ridiculous. I don't want them to get too meta. Ultimately, those are the key words to describe Halo Infinite's experience. Familiar and comforting. Which I think is good. In Halo Infinite, you don't, quote-unquote, finish the fight as much as you relive it. It feels great to be back as Chief, a mysterious new Halo ring full of secrets to discover, and with another AI companion by your side. And then again, like The Force Awakens, this is the old story told in a slightly new way, and for the most part it works. Disagreed with the Star Wars connection. Again, this guy does not justify his title. The title of this article is How Infinite Became the Franchise's Own Star Wars Force Awakens, but it doesn't say... Your article does not answer this question. What that means is you should be spending the whole article explaining, so how did Halo Infinite become The Force Awakens? And he doesn't at all. He just talks about the game. He mentions Force Awakens 3 times at the beginning, the middle, and the end, and that's it. And doesn't say why it's like it. What a crap article. Oh, I mean, this explains it. Wow, the managing editor. Yeesh. You're getting paid a lot to write crap. Of Den of Geek, he lives in New York with his 2 cats. Hmm. Maybe that explains it. Guy lives alone, not married, has 2 cats. Probably miserable. Wait, hold on. I'm reading the comments. Totally agree with the title, and for the same reason, that's why I feel negatively towards the game. What? Halo's story wasn't great, but for the most part, the game really felt like Halo. Nostalgia, blah, 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 too much, and it's not gonna. I think the dev team relied too heavily on nostalgia, and I disagree severely. It's the moving in a streamline which makes what you're doing so much more exciting. You can go through a cavern, on the other side it could be Wraiths and Banshees. Yeah, that I don't agree with. So you know what? Let's go back and address the initial point, which is how it's like Force Awakens. So the Force Awakens, like I said earlier, originally I was like very happy with it because I mean, after the prequels and after so many years of waiting, I think we were all just kind of glad to get more Star Wars. And so I think we kind of all were high on the Kool-Aid for a while. It's kind of like what Phantom Menace did, where everybody thought it was, or not everyone, a lot of people thought it was good for like a couple years, maybe only a couple months, maybe a few days, and then they started thinking about it. That oh man, I'll never forget that end scene with Luke and being so excited for the next 3 years about what's going to happen next, and then just being stabbed over and over and over again in the heart. Ugh, it's painful to think about, honestly. I kind of just leave those movies out of my head. I don't want to revisit them. I kind of dread the fact that one day I'm going to make reviews because I just don't want to think about them anymore. But I guess like just the older I've gotten, the more time that passes, the more I think about it. And the more I revisit the OT, the more that those movies just are not good. But with TFA specifically, yeah. So like, it was this carrot they dangled on a stick for us, and we were expecting answers. And I mean, this game ends kind of in a similar way to that movie in that you are like it's not exactly a cliffhanger, but there's a lot of threads hanging at the end of this, like The Force Awakens did. And let's hope they do a better job of following up on those threads in this game, unlike Star Wars. But the reason why it's not like Force Awakens is Force Awakens was just trying to redo the first movie again, but they did it badly. You maybe could have redone the first movie again, but and done it well, but they sacrificed the storytelling in order to just make a Member Berries movie. It was 100% nostalgia. No, it was a soulless, empty husk of a movie. It was 100% nostalgia, but it wasn't done well. It wasn't. They didn't do it well like No Way Home did. No Way Home was able to use nostalgia, but also it helps the story that they're telling. The story is furthered by the nostalgic elements. With Force Awakens, JJ had his empty mystery box that he didn't know what he was. He waited. He was gonna fill it later, but he just said this box has something in it. I don't know what it is right now, but I will fill it later. And then you open it later, and it's a turd. But this game didn't do that. I mean, yes, they're setting up a lot of stuff for the future, and it remains to be seen what they do with that. But I think this game did a way better job of recapturing Halo 1's feel than Force Awakens did capturing Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Honestly, this just makes me want to make that Star Wars video more because I have so much to say about it. Because Chief fundamentally was still Chief in this. My biggest problem with honestly, this is going to end up being more of a Star Wars rant video than a Halo video. But the chief problem with Force Awakens was Han's treatment. Like after Return of the Jedi, what do you like if you think about it for more than a minute? Like what do you expect Han to be after that movie? You expect him to be some kind of general, right? Because he's General Solo at the end of Return of the Jedi. So he's probably at this point, 30 years later, he's probably like an esteemed general. He's probably leading the fleet for the New Republic. Him and Akbar are probably in charge. But no, they couldn't do that. They wanted to get it. They wanted the whole galaxy to be back to the same status quo as the original Star Wars. So you have another empire again. You have stormtroopers again. But most importantly, you wanted Han as a smuggler again. So you had to denigrate and reverse his character development. Like you just completely undid all of his character development. Like after 30 years, he wouldn't still be smuggling. After he saved the galaxy, you think he would go back to smuggling? It doesn't make any sense. They just wanted to make the first movie again, but without earning it. So, but I mean, before I go off into Star Wars rant land, I just I just wanted to say that it's not like this like Halo treats Halo 1 at all. The only way this title makes sense is if in this game Chief suddenly goes back to how he was in the first game, and that he all of his accomplishments of like defeating the Flood and the Covenant, if that's just all been reversed now, and he no longer isn't like he's not the legendary figure that he is, because people don't. I mean, because everybody knows his name, everyone knows who he is after he saved the galaxy at the end of Halo 3. If this game starts where he's just like a nobody again, and people are like, "Oh, this guy," or he's a loser, even worse, like he's just a low life, and they just had a complete backtracking of his character, then I would agree with you with this title. But they don't do that at all in this game. So yeah, another day, another crap article from rag websites, so-called quote-unquote geek websites that increasingly becoming more irrelevant because places like YouTube exist and there are better people out there to talk about geek stuff, and these people just suck at it. So let me know if you think that this article is crap like I do, or if there's parts in here that you agree with him. But I think that's all I have to say about this trash heap. If you haven't subscribed already and you like what I do here, please do so. I'd really appreciate it. I'm trying to get to 100. So I will see you next time. Thank you for watching.